So, you think your legs are pretty strong, but how do you compare against other people your age? Well, today you're going to find out.
Hey, it's Gaz and Ollie, and we are expert physios in exercise and fitness for those 55 plus. And we know that leg strength is a vital marker of one's physical fitness, their health, and their function.
Gaz, if you have strong legs, you probably find things like getting up from a chair quite easy. Going upstairs is no hassles. Getting up from the floor isn't a problem. And it's usually a sign that you lead an active lifestyle, which we all know is good for your health.
Maybe you can do all of those things. But wait, don't stop the video, because it might not be enough.
You see, as you get older, you lose muscle mass at quite an alarming rate. After the age of 30, you lose muscle at a rate of 3 to 8% per decade. And that accelerates after age 50. Now, throw in an injury or a hospital stay, and that decline in your muscle and strength is even faster.
So it's not sufficient to have legs which are just strong enough. You need to be investing in your leg strength so that you have a buffer for you to use down the track.
That's right, Gaz. Now, how do you know how strong your legs are? Well, we're going to show you with a simple 30-second sit-to-stand test. To perform the 30-second sit-to-stand test, you're going to need a chair. In the research, they use a chair exactly 43 centimeters high, but near enough is good enough for this one. You're going to sit upright with your feet flat on the floor and your arms across your chest. This is the position that you'll come back to each time. Now, stand up straight, then lower yourself back to an upright position in the chair, keeping your feet on the floor at all times. Now, you're going to start a 30-second timer and complete as many as you can before the timer runs out. Ready, Gaz? Go. Nice work, Gaz. If you're over halfway when the timer goes off, you can count that one. So do the test and record your score. Right, so how did you score? Well, as you can see in the table, if you're in your 50s, most people can get in the range of between 12 and 17 repetitions. In your 60s, it's 10 to 15 reps. In the 70s, 8 to 13. And in the 80s, 6 to 11. If you're at the upper end of those ranges or even more, that's great. Keep going with your strength training. And if you're struggling to get close to that number, we need to emphasize your leg strength. But don't worry, Gaz and I have you covered. All right, one of the best ways to improve your leg strength and get better at standing up from a chair is to practice standing up from a chair. But we're going to show you how to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to training this movement.
That's absolutely right. And to get the most bang for your buck, it needs to be appropriately challenging the exercise which you are doing. So if you are doing a sit-to-stand on a chair of a particular height and it's not very hard at all, we're going to go a bit lower.
Okay, so we've got this bench here. It's a couple of inches lower, but that's going to make all the difference because when I sit down, my knees have to go into a greater range of motion and there's more distance for me to stand up and use my legs to lift me up.
That's right. Otherwise, the technique of the movement is exactly the same.
That's right. Now, you don't have to do that if you haven't got a lower chair or a bench like we've got here. You can do a box squat. Okay, so very similar, but instead of sitting down into the chair, Gaz is just going to lower his weight with control and touch the chair very gently before coming back up. And that's going to challenge his thighs and glute muscles through that whole movement, right? Now, you could also, Gaz, you could add some weight to the movement.
Absolutely right.
You got some gym equipment like a dumbbell, you could use that for either the sit-to-stand or the box squat that Gaz just showed you. Or if you haven't got any weights at home, you could even just grab a backpack, hold that in front, put some heavy books in there, and that's going to make it challenging.
You can always wear the backpack, particularly if you have some shoulder issues, shoulder pain.
Great point. Now, Gaz, how many repetitions should we be aiming for?
It's a very good question. We want to aim for somewhere between 8 and 12 repetitions, 3 sets of each at a variation which is appropriately challenging for you.
That's right. And you'll know it's challenging because at the end of your 8 to 12 repetitions, you'll feel like you could only do another 2 or 3 repetitions.
Absolutely right. Put that into your workout regime 2 or 3 times a week.
Here's a couple of bonus tips if you've got knee pain with your sit-to-stands.
Come on. Tip number 1 is to raise the height of the chair.
That's right.
So we talked about going lower to make it harder, to make it easier and more tolerable. We're going to raise the height. Now, you may not have another size chair in the room, but I'm sure that you've got some cushions.
Absolutely.
Pop 1 or 2 cushions onto that chair or that surface and see how your knees feel with that.
Now, that makes it easier because you don't have to stand up as far from the chair and your knees have less range of motion to go through. Now, the other tip that you can try if you have some knee pain when you're doing the squats or the sit-to-stands is to lean your torso further forward. So think about sticking your bottom out, all right, and squatting down a little more like that. What that does is shift some of the weight back to my hips and reduces probably some of the load on your knees. And that can make it more tolerable for a lot of people. But don't make the mistake of thinking that your knees aren't allowed to go forward past your toes. If you can do that, that's fine. Keep squatting and doing your sit-to-stands just like that. Before you go, make sure you give that subscribe button a click so you can see all our new videos and help us reach more people over 55. Cheers.